Hey friends, welcome to another episode of Going Nuclear with Osama. In this episode, we've got a really special guest. Her name is Jadwiga. Jadwiga is an exceptional leader in the nuclear energy industry. She's involved with various organizations, some of which are ENYGF, the European Young Generation in Nuclear. She's also involved with the Nuclear for Climate Delivery Team, which is a collection of groups across the nuclear energy industry representing the nuclear world at the largest climate change conference happening in Dubai of this year. So, Jadwiga, welcome.
Hi, thank you very much for having me.
My pleasure. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a bit about how you got into the industry and your involvement with Nuclear for Climate.
By education, I am a nuclear engineer. So already by that, I was really destined to be here in the nuclear sector. And it's true that I am very involved in different nuclear youth and climate organizations. I just finished my mandate of a president of the European Nuclear Society Young Generation Network, which is the network of early career professionals, both of academia, of industry, that are working or living in Europe. Besides that, and very much related to this first role, I am engaged in Nuclear for Climate. You summarized it very well, what Nuclear for Climate is. It is a network of individuals, of organizations, not only related to nuclear industry, but to nuclear topics, I would say. Very large, even beyond the sector, because we have many engaged individuals who are not working or not engaged in any company related to the nuclear sector. And what we are doing, we are basically focusing on the climate topics. You mentioned the COP conference, the biggest United Nations conference on climate that is happening yearly. This year, COP28 in Dubai. We are very much preparing for this, 6 months to go, and a lot of hopes and ambitions related to that.
Tell me about your role in Nuclear for Climate. What are you doing in this organization? And also, I'd love to know more about your experiences in the former COP conference.
I think 2018. I am more or less involved. I started as a volunteer, as a participant of this conference, helping with whatever was needed. Right now, I am a coordinator, meaning that I am one of the people who are setting the strategy for the future and for the activities every year. We are choosing and supporting, following up with the team that is organizing the coming COP. The team is changing every year. The coordinators are not changing that much. We are this link, we are this knowledge management assurance for the group of people. Since 2018, a lot has happened. I started actually in my home country in Poland, COP24. I came meeting pretty much everybody, apart from maybe two people, for the first time. Those people later became my close collaborators. Actually, this is how I met European Nuclear Society for the first time. And then, as I mentioned, I stayed for quite a bit and quite a bit of work. COP24 was a funny one. I was very lucky to actually be there because as much as the network was very small, it's growing every year. So we were doing what we could. We were, canvassing basically very, very grassroots activities. But we could really very painfully see what is the, let's say, opinion on nuclear of people who are really working every day on the climate topics. People who are, really devoting their life to this and trying to push it forward with all, goodwill, with much honesty and so on. What they thought about us, we got kicked out from the climate march by the organizers, by an environmental organization. And yes, this is how it started. Right now, we, over the years, obviously we made a little bit of a reputation already in this COP community. The community is super big because it's between 20, 30,000 people every year this year the ambitions of the organizers are up to 80,000. So this will be already I cannot imagine the size of the conference. But we slowly become this group that is a reference in terms of nuclear topics. So if there is any media outlet, if there is any organization that is interested or curious about those topics, we are the go-to. We also very much focus on youth. So the experiences are also that the youth people, the youth is very, very impactful on such a conference. So I could see this kind of things during the past years. Every year is different. Every year is a new story. And this year, I hope that, as every year, it will be our best COP yet.
That's great. No, I love that optimism, and yeah, that's phenomenal to see how the scale of the event itself is increasing, right? Because of climate change is such a big topic nowadays. Um, tell me about what are your goals for this year's COP delivery team for Nuclear for Climate? Where do you see like how would you define success for this year?
Yes, so there are many types of goals that we set for ourselves. First type is, of course, the goals towards the outside, what we want to produce. We really want to be visible not only by our bubble, not only by the followers that are following all the media and groups related to nuclear, but by two other groups, by climate activists or, well, NGO related people, who are those people who one day in the past kicked us out from the march. Like, we really want to, if not win their support, we want at least make them curious, and we want to give any information that they may think they need. And the other group is the general public, which is the group that tends to be little educated about nuclear energy and even less about nuclear in the topics of climate. So we are working on raising the visibility in these two places. And then obviously another group is the decision makers. So we are calling to the decision makers for the concrete actions, not only because this is already worked on for many years to be recognized. This many countries, many regions already are recognizing nuclear as important. But talking is one thing, doing is the other. And so COP is a wonderful place to chat up the politicians, the decision makers, and see what they think. And again, the same with the others. If they need any information, we are more than happy to provide it. And there are also many goals that are internal. You can imagine such a network. It's a big group of people, and it's also a global scope. We want to ensure that we are not only growing to the outside, but we are also making our work, making our impact on the individuals that are collaborating with us a good one and an enriching one. Working with a global community is particularly challenging because of the cultural differences, even time zone differences. Sometimes those tiny details are really deciding about the success of the project. So our success criterion is that all those groups of people are feeling taken into account, and that they receive access to this conference, or at least to whatever we are producing. If somebody feels that they should participate and that they have something to contribute to, we want to know about this, and we want to provide them the platform.
I really like how you broke down the three kind of target audiences for the COP conference, right? Like those general public that isn't aware of nuclear energy, right? Those that are passionate about climate change already and kind of need to be reintroduced to nuclear, and then those policymakers, right? And those decision makers. Tell me about we met during the IYNC conference, International Youth Generation Nuclear, which was phenomenal. It's a collection of international delegates from across the world coming together, and I think COP is similar, right? You have that similar energy of people that are coming together with the same shared belief that climate change is important and that we need more sustainable energy solutions. Tell me about your experiences with that.
Yeah, well, COP is a very, very diverse event. And what is special about this is its sheer size. This, what it gives, is the fact that each group of interests tries to be represented and is encouraged to be represented, at least as much as the logistic and then, of course, unfortunately, sometimes financial means are allowing. So at this conference, you are able to exchange with people who have sometimes extremely different views than you. And this is very enriching. One perk of this is that when you contribute especially in such exchanges, communication with groups of people, sometimes minorities, sometimes people who feel very, very unheard somewhere else, you really need to learn a lot on the communication side, meaning this is not just everyday conversation. You are talking to people who sometimes have very deep emotions, even traumas that are leading them to this activity, to this dynamism in terms of climate, COP conference. So it's a big specificity of this conference that it pushes you to be much more mindful about how you are formulating your words and what are you talking about, what are you not talking about when facing the public.
We in the nuclear energy industry kind of have that open-mindedness, right? Because we're a bit of the black sheep, right, of the herd. So it's great that you're coming from that space of empathy and understanding. Tell me a bit about you've been super active with the ENGYF, the European Young Generation of Nuclear, and then also I think you've been very much involved in Stand Up for Nuclear as well in France. Tell me about those experiences coming together and kind of preparing you for your role with Nuclear for Climate.
Yeah, you did your homework. So each of the activities is like learning you different things. And mostly people who are contributing to COP, they're coming from one of the environments or maybe several of them. There is the citizen-related environments that are very much focusing on the fact that for example, energy is the right of a citizen and everybody should have access to clean energy. And this is where, for example, the Stand Up for Nuclear movement very much is stemming from. And especially in France, there is this strong feeling of we are the citizens. Then European Nuclear Society is the community of professionals. So this is a learned society. We are very much based on science and trying to use this as the argument to educate about nuclear. And so COP is a mix of those different things. You need to be very, very careful about the arguments that you are using. You need to be correct. You cannot, guess anything that comes to your mind and saying something from memory, not having it fact-checked before. But also you need to sometimes take this hat of a citizen because many participants of COP, and just to maybe give a little bit context of that so that it's clear that we're talking about the United Nations conference. So you can imagine there is a lot of politicians and a lot of decision makers, what I mentioned before, but there is also a lot of NGOs and groups that are impacted by climate. So some people are coming dressed in suits. Some people are coming dressed in their traditional folklore clothes. Some people are coming dressed in T-shirts with some big screaming logo saying, I don't know, save the climate. We are neither. We are an observer, so something related very strongly to NGOs. However, we are trying to talk to all those groups and finding the right way to communicate with each one of them.
What's the story? What's your story behind entering the nuclear energy industry? What's your passions and motivations behind, combating climate change and reducing greenhouse gas emissions? What pulls you towards this technology?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I always wondered where is this like first moment when I actually thought that it would be cool to join. As I was a kid when I kind of thought about this for the first time, so I was thinking it's cool. I actually thought for the first time about joining nuclear energy related topics, not even industry or academia. I didn't know anything about that. When I was in secondary school, so I was maybe 12, and I went for a school trip to Germany. And this is actually where I thought it would be really nice to work in such topics. Where when I found a postcard that was like distributed for free, it was like a communication campaign, I think. The postcard was saying, you need to walk over 17 bridges. And 17 was the number of reactors that Germany had at that time. And the postcard explained that it's the bridge to clean energy, to prosperity. It was all written in German. I was learning German at that time, so I was very like proud of myself that I could understand, and I was thinking that maybe this could be a path for me. Sounds very nice: energy, prosperity, development. Then I forgot for many years about this because, there were different news in the TV and so on, and I could not really wrap my head around what to do in my life. But then during studies, I ended up studying energy engineering, so I didn't go so far away from this initial idea. And I joined a student research group, and I went there kind of to find friends, and I ended up leading the group and leading the projects that were related to communication about nuclear energy to children and to small communities, rural communities, local people who have very little access to such education. And then it was just straight. The choice was simple. I ended up studying nuclear energy, and I am right now at my first experience of nuclear industry. I'm working as a system engineer, so engineering the installation for the Hinkley Point C power plant.
Yeah, so it comes around circle with the 17 bridges. I guess that was the first spark that led to,
Yeah.
kind of indirectly led to your journey, right? So that's a really cool story. That's interesting how one thing can lead to another. And yeah, so I guess when it comes to your position in Nuclear for Climate, tell me a little bit about that. You're doing so you are project manager for COP, for the Nuclear for Climate organization. Tell me a bit about your role and how it's like working with the team this year.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so indeed, I am a project manager for COP28. It's the first time that we are actually implementing this role. So we are testing different tools. In the end, it's quite a big team of around 30 people coming from, if I'm not wrong, it should be around 19 countries. So spanning through a big part of the globe. So we are trying to bring a little bit structure to it. At some point, you realize that if you let people understand what they want to understand, and just basing everything on like good discussions, sometimes it's really entering the places where you don't want to end up with the project. So we are implementing the structure, and with nobody being a professional manager, this is a very enriching experience because we are really learning by doing. And not only us, but actually all the team. And this is why I think delivery team so the team that is leading to COP28 is really the place where people have this amazing playground that on one side you are doing something that really matters, but on the other side nobody's expecting you to be perfect. You're gonna get there, and you are going to be maybe a little bit more expert in your field, probably at the last day of COP. And this is what we felt after COP27. We were so smart, we were so ready for this COP when the COP finished. So this is what is really special in this team. We're the team of volunteers. Everybody is welcome to contribute and to learn. The team is also working on yearly basis. So if somebody is interested in joining, well, the recruitment will probably start at the end of 2023 for the COP29. Just a small commercial in here.
That's great. No, thanks for that shout out. I think in the link below you'll find the Nuclear for Climate website where you can check out any updates or ways to get involved in the organization. So I would say from last year's COP and as that was held in Egypt, tell me about your experiences there. How was it like? What was your role there, and how did it prime you to transition to the role that you're doing now?
Yes, so my role of Nuclear for Climate coordinator did not change much between the two COPs. The difference is that right now, very sadly, one of the coordinators is leaving us, actually the leader of Nuclear for Climate. So I'm going to be slowly transitioning into this leading role to get a little bit more autonomy very soon. But yes, as I said before, every COP is the best COP yet. So COP27 was really amazing. It was very enriching for us to build actually for the first time the team from zero, taking this attitude that the team should be global. We could see the very, very good vision of that at COP26, where the team was, I think, half based in UK, half internationally. And we decided, no, let's go full on. Let's just give the chance to everybody to participate in this. And actually, it worked well to this extent that for COP28, for 30 seats at the delivery team, I think we got close to 200 inscriptions. So the recruitment was a very extremely hard process because every candidate was just such a good candidate. And so I just take this opportunity maybe to say sorry to all the people who did not get the seat. And please believe me, it's nothing personal. It was just so difficult to choose it. And I hope that we will see each other next year working together.
Yeah, that's actually very interesting that the Nuclear for Climate a group had over 200 applicants, and out of those 200, only 30 were chosen. So what are you looking for in terms of those candidates? What are some, like, I guess these are the cream of the crop from across the world. So tell me some of the things that like really come at you, some core skills.
Yes. So as I said, nobody expects the delivery team members, or for that matter, candidates, to be experts in a field. What we are expecting really is to see the passion, is to see that this person is working on their everyday basis on something they love, and that they are also at least slightly interested in the topics that we are going to work on. We do not necessarily need people who are just going to get job done and that's it. We want this, plus the fact that they really want to do it. They really love the idea and the objective. And finally, this is not any kind of skill, but it's a little bit on our side. The objective is to make sure that everybody has access to such activity, meaning that it doesn't matter if you're coming from a country that we know very well, or if you're coming from the other side of the world in comparison to me, checking your application, we want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to participate in this activity, be it delivery team or being a delegate to COP, because it has to be said that on one side, we are working as volunteers, preparing all the logistics, organizations. This is what is delivery team. But we are always trying to invite as many people as possible to participate in the actual conference and becoming the volunteers on site. It's always a very difficult process because the place is extremely limited, and we, due to the financial reasons, of course, we cannot sponsor everybody to travel. So there is a little bit of effort for every participant to make on their side. However, we want to ensure that as much as scope represents the global scope, we want to also give the global community the chance to participate there with us.
Phenomenal. I like that welcoming and open approach to provide that opportunity for those that are passionate about nuclear. So this is great. Tell me about your highlights from COP last year. How was that like? Do you have any moments that really are memorable and that resonate with you?
Yes, of course. I have so many of them that I'll try not to talk too long about this. One of the highlights that I immediately think of was this amazing idea that we had together with some of the delegates to organize something like a common fitness session that we made in scope of the conference. People were welcome to join if they wanted, or just to make a video, or just to laugh at us. We called it Climate Fitness. And it was supposed to be a little bit like, work of art, a flash mob, but, something with some symbolic behind it. We just thought that nuclear is such a source of energy that is so fit to provide the net zero, to contribute to it, and is giving this like health to the energy system and so on, that the fitness class is a good parallel to it. We had our beautiful melty teddy bears, polar bears, who were doing this activity with us. Those are big, white, inflatable costumes that are very like fluffy. People love them. People take selfies with them. So why such activity at a serious conference where people are deciding about the politics on the global scale? Is because it's very easy to say difficult words and to read very long sentences, but what we want to do is to ensure visibility of nuclear energy in the common dialogue, in the general public dialogue. And this kind of activity is a very easily explainable activity that gives you a lot of feeling, a lot of understanding of complex concepts with simple images. It's a little bit like a meme, Sometimes memes can give you so much understanding and so much symbolic in a very simple, paint prepared image. So this is what this activity was supposed to be, and we managed to capture a lot of attention from the media, be it from Reuters, Bloomberg, be it from the TVs, and so other visual media outlets. And this is what this kind of activity was made for. Another activity that I remember so well was the distribution of bananas. So this is another, it's very grassroots. So grassroots meaning you're talking one-on-one with people, and not the most efficient activity, but this is the one that people as individuals tend to remember the best. Many people know what banana symbolizes for us. Banana is full of potassium that is radioactive. And this banana is more radioactive than living 1 year next to a nuclear power plant. So we were passing this information to people in banana costumes. So again, looking a little bit ridiculous, and this was the whole point. And then also what we could see during this activity, and this is this very personal small thing that is making COP so rich and amazing, is how our hosts, Egyptian colleagues, were amazingly efficient with anything related to human contact. So talking to people, communicating, explaining, and also logistic side. How do you get 100 kilos of bananas in like 2 hours? You just ask an Egyptian. They will know exactly what to do because they just have a friend just there who has, I don't know, a grocery store. So this cultural richness was helping a lot in getting those sometimes crazy ideas very quickly, realizing them quickly on the spot in COP. And maybe third activity, again, I'm going to talk about something that is quite activist because the other activities, as much as they are important, they are classical conference activities like discussion panels, some like evening meetings. But the third activity that really stayed in my mind was activist speed dating. We decided that if we want to convince people who really dearly care about climate, we should go directly to them. And we organized the speed dating between different youth organizations and people who are very, very invested in those topics, but coming from different environments. And we just enabled made this platform, set some very simple rules. People were, doing the speed dating, and everybody learned so much from this experience. So those activities are showing what I remember more general from COP is that creativity is amazing willpower and this adrenaline that is giving you the kick, even though you're sometimes working 16 hours a day and you crawl back to bed. This is a very, very intense activity to go to such an event, and the richness that is coming from the diversity. This is what I remember from COP.
That's phenomenal. I love the impact, how you summarized the impact of and compared it to that of hey, those politicians in fancy suits and delivering very powerful statements, of course, which are really important. But then on the flip side, you have this public engagement and engagement with activists, the real people on the ground who are passionate, who are influencing the politicians at the end of the day, right? So making that change in that regard is so important, right? Also, I love the examples of the bananas and getting a chance to be a part of that enriched, diverse environment. And tell me about that. Tell me about the aspect of diversity and this Nuclear for Climate organization. Folks from across the world are coming together, and they have that shared belief that nuclear energy is part of that solution. Tell me from your perspective. I'm coming from North America. You're coming in from Europe. Tell me about interfacing and working closely with so many different members of this organization, different time zones, and what are some of those challenges, and also what are the things that you enjoy as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. Let me just comment on what you said before about the politicians in suits. I just need to say that politicians in suits are super important, and they are the main target of the conference. One thing is that is important is that everybody is finding their own niche in this big community, and our niche, big part of it happens to be this happiness, this colorful positivity, and we contribute also to the other goals. Of course, we are participating in the panel sessions, we are talking to politicians, but those activities that are staying with the volunteers and those things that are, I think, shaping the volunteers' morale and motivation to work further outside of COP on spreading the message are those colorful and creative things. And now going to the diversity, well, there are different types of challenges. One of them is obviously the logistic one, is that everybody is working, living somewhere else, has some point in life where you get different constraints. So organizing yourself, structuring the team, and so on is a challenge because you need to meet all those needs. Everybody is a volunteer. We're doing this after work. We're doing this during lunchtime. We're doing this sometimes before breakfast, and so you need to make sure that you are not disturbing in people's lives by coming in to their private time with your banana and with your let's plan something together. So apart from that, you have, of course, this diversity on like soft communication space. So every culture has a very specific way of communicating. For example, even in Europe, we are a continent that is still quite uniform. We are having the same basis. We are very similar. At some point we were one big imperium where majority of the continent was just had the same, the name of the same country, and so many messages that are passed are understood similarly, but many are not. And then so going further and trying to cooperate with people from totally different culture, it becomes sometimes a little bit of a challenge, which is not a challenge that is a problem. It's a challenge that when used well is bringing a lot of richness and is helping with getting better results. And the challenge is actually how to arrive to this moment where we can actually learn from each other and not just get frustrated with the fact that we don't understand what is said. And I think that every year we are learning a little bit more about this, and we are discussing a lot between the coordinators, the delivery team leaders, with the goodwill to see how to do it in the optimized and just not stressful, not frustrating way for anybody collaborating in the teams.
It's great that you're being pretty frank about those challenges that can come up, but also about the flip side of the coin, seeing the opportunity there, right? For such a great impact, and also a learning opportunity with globalization. I think that's the one thing that has the opportunity there. It's that richness and bringing people together to do trade, to expand. I know Canada recently is doing agreements with different countries to deploy small modular reactors, right? So like even in Poland and across various countries across the world are kind of collaborating to advance these nuclear energy technologies. So tell me from that perspective, advancement of these technologies and making an impact through that work with this new nuclear renaissance. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a challenge, isn't it? I think everybody is aware that we really need to start collaborating together to make it work, because nuclear is a very, very regulated space, and I think that the collaboration is necessary to accelerate the projects that right now, when we are relearning how to do it after many years of stagnation, is the only way to actually be competitive among other energy sources. And this collaboration, this working together is very much related to everything regulation and harmonization and just speeding up the process um, of licensing the designs that many countries are looking at, but every country wants to, as for now, do the licensing with their own method. And this is just multiplying the time of realization of the projects. And of course, time is money, and we don't have. We maybe have a little bit of money, but mostly we don't have time. So fighting for net zero by 2050 is a global challenge. Not only that, speeding up the building of the nuclear power plants is not only the challenge of the nuclear industry itself, but it's something that has to contribute to the global problem that we are facing. And therefore, there is a very big objective that has to be kept. Yes.
It all kind of comes around circle with COP, right? And I think the experiences that are being gained through this conference and through working with these leaders from across the world in terms of nuclear energy is that it's a transferable skill to actually deploying these nuclear technologies as well, right? So I kind of see things from that perspective. I really enjoyed this conversation. Is there anything else, like any other message that you'd like to share with the world, to share with the industry or others that are watching this?
Yes, of course. I would really love to share a little bit how people can engage in nuclear for climate, even if they are not working close with us every day. We have our social media. That's the first place where you can know what's going on. And I'm not only talking about what's going on in the network, but what's going on in climate topics, nuclear relation to it. This is really a source of information that is just very reusable. You can learn yourself, but also share it with any member of your family, any friend. Everybody will understand what we want to say. On the other hand, if you think to maybe get engaged with us, but you missed the previous deadline, that was many months ago, sorry, there will be additional recruitment for the group that we call Task Force. It will be working over summer and the first months after summer, preparing to COP, with additional amazing activities that we are preparing for the COP28. And finally, a very interesting source of information that people can participate in and learn from about climate and about nuclear are pre-COP events, which will be happening all the way towards COP. And they will be treating different topics that are sometimes not fully understood. If you are coming from, well, environmental organization, or you are mostly following those topics, you may learn something about nuclear energy. If you're coming from nuclear energy environment, you may learn a lot about climate. And so whoever wants to learn about well, environment and how to actually get to net zero, pre-COP events are really amazing source of information, which will make you understand what they are talking about in media during COP28. And finally, really amazing activity also coming up from our side that will benefit our audience is the newsletter that will start with its first edition very, very soon. And we will be leading you through the activities of Nuclear for Climate, but also really the news and the knowledge about climate that we think that everybody should be aware of and know what's happening in the world around them.
So no, thank you for highlighting those opportunities to get involved, and I really recommend everyone that's watching this podcast, Times Right, go check out the links in the description below, and check out those opportunities to get involved with this organization, whether it be this year or next year. I'm sure those links will still be active. So Jadwiga, again, thank you so much for your time. Really enjoyed this discussion and learning more about the Nuclear for Climate organization, and also your experiences with COP. So really appreciate this conversation.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.